welcome here to this edition of Inside Centercourt Baseball. And we have an exciting announcement. Earlier this month, we brought in Mike Rogers as our guest today as the Director of Youth Baseball for Centercourt for all its locations for the Lawrence, Marlboro, and Gillette, Morristown locations up in North Jersey. And thanks for coming on, Mike. I know we go back a couple of years, more than probably we want to admit, but thanks for dropping by.
No, I appreciate you having me. This is great.
Yeah, this is a new role for you, but not really. I mean, your whole life has been in the game. For those who don't fully know Mike's backstory, we're talking about, one of the top all-time players in Mercer County, a three-time high school state champ at Steinert High School, American Legion World Series participant, Hamilton Post 31 in 2000 out in Illinois. North Carolina State, one of the top pitchers in that's quite a program to be one of the top pitchers all time. 24 wins over 3 years, back-to-back all ACC seasons. Second round draft pick of the Oakland A's in 2004, I believe. From there, professional career 6 years. Immediately from there, opening up the Mike Rogers Baseball Academy and becoming a D1 pitching coach at Applachian State for a few years before moving back to the area and leading us to Centercourt. Did I miss anything at all there?
No, I think that's all.
I studied before the exam here.
That's great.
But first of all, welcome to the Centercourt family. Certainly a great job as a travel coach of the 12U Makos team out of Lawrence. It's number one in the state. But more importantly, what do you hope to see in this role, kind of overseeing baseball development for all the sites?
Yeah, Mike, first off, I appreciate you having me. Baseball's been really, really good to me over the course of my career. So, being able to, play at a high level and coach at a high level and, be able to run my own business. And now with this opportunity, baseball's been, again, really, really good to me. So, now that I took this position over at Centercourt, my goals and my thoughts for all locations is kind of what it's been, as a player and what it's been as a coach. And that's just, working on and really focusing on player development and having an identity, not just for the Lawrence location or the Marlboro location or the Gillette location, but having a central identity for the Centercourt Makos identity. So it's kind of one of those things to where, what we're going to, really stress, not only for certain locations, but just the way we go about our business, the way Makos play the game. And, I think with the staff that we have, whether it be the directors, Eddie and Lou and Jim and Johnny and John, I think we have a really, really good staff in place that can only kind of propel this, this Makos organization in Centercourt.
When you talk about one identity and kind of one Centercourt baseball program that kind of encompasses everything, and obviously each site is in a different part of New Jersey, and we know that every part of New Jersey wants to have its own identity. But, with things like the, this Sunday coming up, kind of the all encompassing, every location kind of joint workout and a chance to meet all the other coaches. As director now, what do you want people to say about Centercourt baseball? How the players play and how the coaches coach.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And when I took the job, I talked to all the different directors at all the different locations, and we came up with with this idea to have an organizational day, a workout to where all the locations can get together. Because I know, Mike, we've talked earlier, guys can learn from not just coaches and trainers, but players can learn from each other. And they can see different things that certain players do and try to implement that to their game. So I want that, I want to try to do something like this, whether it be once a month, whether it be once every other month, to where these guys in all the locations can get together. The coaches can get together, they can talk, they can kind of, throw ideas to each other, and just try to really kind of build the whole program as a whole. From an identity standpoint, I feel like it's important to make sure that, like, how baseball is. We're not going to win all the time. You're going to have your good games, but the one thing that we will do is we'll compete. We'll work hard. We'll play the game the right way. And that's something that, I know that all the directors have that same common goal. So I think the identity of it and being able to kind of implement that won't be a problem at all.
Yep, for sure. Now, obviously, you've had a ton of success with the guys at the younger level. The older level, what do you see the most important thing to implement here is? I know that you've talked about, a formal arm care program for pitchers, that are fully developed to get them ready for the high school season. The importance of off-season training, now more than ever, seems like it's a major focus. And how important is it for us at Centercourt to have that kind of laid out program and implement that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. I think now there's so much for these older guys, especially, and younger guys that could be offered, whether it be strength training, whether it be arm care training, all that kind of stuff. It's super important for these guys to where I know over the years just working with guys, it's our goal for the older guys is to make sure come high school tryouts they're ready to go. It's not going to be they're just getting ready; they are ready to go. So if the coach is like, "Hey, we need you to throw a 40 pitch bullpen," they're ready to do that. If the coach say, "Hey, we need you to go run a mile," then they're ready to do that. It's nothing's going to surprise them. And I feel like with what Centercourt can offer at all the locations, we can really kind of nail that down to where, these guys shouldn't have any problem being ready come March, 13th when pitchers and catchers report.
Yep. Now, what's the biggest change? Geez, it's been 20 years since you were at this level and in the college level, going from somebody who goes to the University of Texas and shuts out the #1 team, for 9 innings, throwing, maybe max 92, 6'1" righty, kind of, I would say average, being that I'm about 5, maybe on a good day. So it's still pretty tall, but, not the typical, like what we see. You were no Alex Manoah, let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
To see that, 90, 92 not being the hardest throw, but being a pretty hard thrower. And now we see guys throwing like 90 to 92 in high school.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest difference in the game, pitching wise, is just the change in velocity?
Listen, I think obviously the change in velocity is a huge difference, but I also feel like from when I played to now, what is offered to these kids at such a young age is more than what was ever offered to us. We never had, individual pitching coaches, hitting coaches, nutritionists, strength and conditioning coaches. And I feel like that's why these kids nowadays, they are better. That's why they throw harder at a younger age. That's why they hit the ball further at a younger age. It's just, there's so much offered to them now, which is great. It's great for the game. But I feel like that is probably the biggest difference. And obviously when that stuff is being offered to kids at ages 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on and so forth, people that can take advantage of it, it's great. And I feel like from a developmental standpoint, it'll only kind of catapult you.
Yep. Now I've had college, D1 pitching coaches tell me, or D1 recruiting coordinators tell me, okay, I go to the showcases. How do I differentiate between the 50 guys I see that are 6 foot tall righties, age 16 or 17, throwing 85 to 87 and maxing 88, 89? Is that, one thing that, like, how do you separate yourself? What do you do to stand out?
That's that's the challenge. That's the challenge with your prototypical, I'd say your prototypical right-handed pitcher like myself. Like, what are you going to do to stand out at a college showcase? What are you going to do to stand out at a high school tryout? And it's kind of one of those things to where, it can be different for everybody. It can be, hey, I'm gonna come in first in the conditioning. I'm gonna make sure that my fastball command is spot on. I'm gonna make sure I can land my breaking ball each and every time. That's the kind of stuff where, as a player, whether it be a pitcher, a hitter, or fielder, that's the biggest thing. Because again, baseball is an extremely tough sport. So it's one of those things to where, what are you going to do to kind of catch the coach's eye? Whether it's after a showcase, you go up to the coaches there, shake their hand and introduce yourself and thank them for the opportunity. That stuff, I know when I was coaching in college, that went a long way for me, because not only can I see your physical abilities, but now you're starting to show me your character. And again, physical abilities anybody can see, but I think when you start seeing the player's character, and hey, this is a guy I think might be a good fit for our organization or for our college or for our team, that goes a long way.
You've had so many different perspectives in your career, from state champ high school star to, college, #1 guy on a super regional team to a, high round draft pick to a college, D1 assistant coach, to, now active at the youth level. How important is it to take all those perspectives and kind of learn from all of them and now pass them on to the next generation here?
Oh, I mean, I think that's huge. And I was very, very fortunate, growing up, at a young age, having great coaches, having coaches that I learned a lot from the little league level to my father to the Babe Ruth level to, I mean, it absolutely started with him, and I know older brother to look up to as well. So that always, that always helps. To high school with Richie, to Legion with Rick, and my college coach and all my professional coaches. It was huge. And what I tried to do, as a player, and then I kind of transitioned that into as coaches, take what worked for me from each one of those coaches and kind of make it my own, and kind of, have my own identity. And but again, it's just kind of one of those things. That's what I do with all my guys that I work with and my team. Like, I'm not going to be their only coach. I'm not going to be their only pitching coach. But take some stuff from that you like, that we do at practice, or that we talk about at practice, and kind of make that your own, because you're going to have a lot of coaches throughout your baseball career, hopefully. So the whole goal is to make sure that you kind of just, take here, take there, and then kind of make it your own. Because I think the biggest thing and the hardest thing for guys is trying to at times be someone you're not. And I think that's one of those things where, hey, let's find what works for you, and then we can kind of go from there. So I was super fortunate at a young age to have coaches that were a huge impact. I mean, a huge impact on me, throughout my whole baseball career.
Now, you were also fortunate, and I mean, not that it wasn't deserved, but certainly fortunate in that you got to start your college career not as a volunteer coach, but as a D1 college pitching coach at Appalachian State. For one of your college assistants who got the head job there. Certainly were on a up track to a great career as a college coach if you wanted, but made the decision a few years in to really kind of pursue that other path that you were working on, which was the local side of it, and developing younger players. What made you decide to fully go that way, and how has that sort of kind of shaped the next 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate. Billy Jones, the guy that I played for at North Carolina State, he was at Oklahoma State prior to getting the job at Applachian State. He called me up, and I thought he wanted to call me up and hey, you want to be the assistant? I mean, the volunteer assistant, because he knew I was kind of itching around to kind of get into college baseball. And he calls me up, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it would have been tough, but my wife Morgan, she was on board with it. So he called me up, and then, make a long story short, he's like, hey, we want you to be the pitching coach. So that kind of changed the whole complexity of everything. And it is kind of rare to not have college coaching experience to just get into a paid position. But I was very fortunate. Billy gave me it was a huge opportunity, and he kind of handed the keys to me, like, hey, listen, this is your staff. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, you do it. And it was great. And because of that, I was able to have a bunch of guys that signed professional contracts and are playing, to this day. So I'm super, fortunate with that. And, it's super gratifying as well to see those guys that I recruited that played for me and are still playing and having success nonetheless. But it did get to the point where, it's a lot. I mean, any college coach will tell you it's a very, very demanding job. And, at the time, having two small boys and being on the road a lot and recruiting a lot and being in the office a lot, it took its toll. I mean, I wanted to see them, grow up and be at their baseball games and help out with their practices. And so again, it was a very, very tough decision. But my wife and I came up with the decision to kind of go back to come back to New Jersey and kind of continue to do what I was doing. And now being able to do something like this is just it kind of all came full circle. So I feel like it's the best decision, not only for myself but for my family as well.
Favorite place you've ever pitched? Favorite place you pitched, looking back on it?
Favorite place I pitched? Texas is pretty cool. I have to say, Texas was when I was in college, Texas was pretty cool. I mean, we pitched in some cool pro stadiums as well, but from a college standpoint, and the atmosphere there, it was pretty cool.
I can think the result factored into that a little bit too.
Always. Yeah. Because without good results, I kind of erase that from my mind.
Yeah. But to play in such a great atmosphere and have that result on the road where you just quiet them for 9 innings is kind of like, it's going to be an all-time thrill.
Yeah,
right?
it was kind of one of those things where we're going into it that year. Texas had, Houston Street, they had JP Howe. We had an All-American closer in Joey Devine. And, that was kind of the thing where, hey, Houston Street was a closer, Joey Devine was a closer. So they were wanting to see those guys at the end of the game. And, fortunately
like,
for us,
it
it didn't get that far. So, but it was a great experience there. And, it was not just that game, that whole series was big for us to get into a regional, then a super regional, and so on and so forth.
Yep, twice to the super regionals, led to drafted by Oakland in the second round. What was that moment like where because out of high school you didn't get drafted, and there was certainly a decent amount of talk that could have happened with your high school credentials, to come back 3 years later, get picked in the second round. What was that moment like for you?
I mean, it's every child's dream to hear your name called, to a professional team. It was great. And, not getting drafted out of high school, I was extremely content with that. And I mean, like, as well with that high school team that we had, especially those pictures we had between Matt, between Frank, between Chris. I mean, it was, we had just so, and that's just a few of them. And it was an extremely talented team, and each one of those guys and each one of those pitchers on that staff could play at any level, which was great. And to have Matt and to have Chris get drafted, I mean, there's not too many high school teams that you have 2 arms getting drafted out of high school. So it's so it was awesome to play with those guys.
And then another one getting drafted 3 years later. So 3 guys off your staff. Then the 4th one didn't get drafted, but he decided to become GM of a minor league team for
exactly.
20,
exactly. So it was, again, just that thinking back to that team, it was definitely a special team. Unfortunately, our senior year we didn't win it, but hey, that's sometimes that happens. But it was
single elimination baseball is crazy.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So, and I still keep in touch with all those guys, to this day, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's been a great ride. What would you say to your now these hundreds of guys that fall under your development at Centercourt? What's the message you want them to know and believe and feel going into
we're gonna work. We're gonna develop. It's, and I always try to tell everybody, it's the coming to train, coming to do this, coming to do that at certain times is great. But the stuff that we do outside of practice, the stuff that we do outside of training is going to speed up that process. So I kind of, challenge all these guys to really kind of, get their hands dirty, get in the, with my older guys, get in the weight room, get physically stronger. With my younger guys, it's a game. I want you to have fun. I want you to develop. There's going to be ups and downs. I always try to, I stress to my team, especially, we need to kind of stay kind of even keel. We can't get too high. We can't get too low. This game is way too emotional to where you're gonna go out and think you're the best thing ever one game, and the next game you're gonna go 0 for 4 strikeouts. So I try to make sure and really kind of relay that message of just trying to stay even keel, and good things will happen to people that work hard and are willing to put the work in.
Absolutely. Mike Rogers is our guest today on Inside Centercourt. We are excited to see where you take the program. Certainly, as you said, some great directors, having Jim Mayer at Lawrence and Johnny Reyna in charge of the Makos program, and Eddie Mejia down in Marlboro, and Lou Clemente up north in Gillette and in Morristown. I mean, that's a great staff to start.
Yeah, I feel like I said, like I said earlier, I feel like the team that was put in place is a great team, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, well, let's hopefully see everybody Sunday, 1:30 to 4:30 at the open kind of organizational workout at Centercourt and Lawrence over on Spruce Street at the Giant Bubble, the biggest bubble of its type in probably the world, but certainly in Mercer County and certainly in New Jersey. So let's hope to see everybody there on Sunday, and make sure to get up to Mike, introduce yourself, and learn from the man who's still the best high school pitcher that I've ever seen. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's it. That's it for this edition, and we'll see everybody out at the field.